Hey guys, welcome to the Perfectly Wasted Podcast. I'm the host, DullOxide. Today's episode 30 on ransomware. You can find all my previous episodes on the Drinking Wisemen YouTube channel, along with my bi-weekly podcast, Brew the Truth, all my day-to-day photos and cosplay photos on my Instagram at DullOxide, and there are new cosplay photos as of last week. So please check those out, like, and share them. So today I want to talk a little bit about ransomware because I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what ransomware is and kind of where it came up and how it's coming into the news so much recently. Ransomware is a type of malware, which stands for malicious software, basically, that is installed on your computer and essentially holds your files and your passwords, things like this, for ransom, essentially. Now, this has become a big deal recently because some public systems and some classified systems have the ability to get ransomware on them, and if they get ransomware on them, then it makes it so that it's practically impossible to recover the data. So something that you might see if you've ever encountered ransomware is a message like the one that I have up here. Your personal files are encrypted by whatever locker program that they might call it. Contact this number within this amount of time or all of your files will be permanently encrypted and will lose the encryption key, kind of idea. So essentially, they're trying to extort you for money or to get you to do something for them that's not traceable. Most of them are going to ask for things like payment on Green Dot, or that you PayPal, or that you buy them something and have it shipped somewhere, possibly that you use Bitcoin. I mean, the possibilities are endless, really. And essentially, a lot of these companies will never even give you the encryption key. You'll just be at a loss. It'll just completely fucking suck. So there's a couple of these out there now, and what I have up on the screen here is pretty common, but there's also another pretty common one. And the other one is right here. It looks like it's for the Department of Justice. It looks like a very official type message that you might see on your screen. This one is for the Department of Justice. I've seen them that they say FBI. I've seen them that they say basically any kind of official type stamp that you could find online. They throw on these things and they say, oh, your computer's been locked, and or you're gonna have a fine for this, and you have to pay us in order to get this message off. You're gonna have to pay us. This is one of the lesser types of ransomware that you could just kind of remove or get removed, and usually you're okay. Now, something I do recommend is that, if you do get this kind of ransomware, if it's either of these, just immediately shut your computer off. Because as soon as you see a message like this, it still might be possible to recover your data if your data has been encrypted, or even just because you don't know how bad it is yet. So if you see a message that says something like this that's trying to extort you in some way or looks super official, literally just either pull the power out of your computer or power it off as fast as you can. Get it to somebody that knows what they're doing so that they can either pull the hard drive out and try and recover your data, or they could try and clean it up. In the worst case scenario, you might lose some of your data, but if you get to it fast enough and you're able to turn it off before all the encryption starts, then more than likely you're going to be able to bypass just a whole big pain in the ass. Because if your files start to get encrypted by these softwares, the chances are you're never decrypting them. It's just very unlikely. And none of these things are repairable once they're encrypted, so you just kind of lose data, which is a big deal because if you don't have it backed up somewhere else, you could potentially just be screwed. You could have lost years and years of family photos, your entire MP3 library, which luckily you probably bought on iTunes, but if you pirated it, then you're going to have to rebuild all of that, and that's just a big pain in the ass as it is. Most of the stuff that they go for is going to be things that are encryptable, so you don't really have to worry so much about like movies. I mean, there are some that do that kind of stuff, but for the most part, it's anything that's going to be inside of folders. It's easily accessible. It's not going to be any of like your system files and stuff like that most of the time, because they want you to be able to still boot your system to see their ransom so that they can get paid, essentially. Now, I have heard rumors that some of these guys will actually give you the encryption or unlock your computer if you do pay them. Now, that being said, I would never recommend paying these people. If you get something like this, even if you're extremely desperate to get whatever it was on your computer back, do not pay these people. They do not give you your data back. I've heard rumors only that they would if you do pay them, but again, those are just rumors. I'm sure there are just as many things on the internet that says that it's just never going to happen, that you're just shit out of luck. So this is kind of like the basic description of what ransomware is. And you can only imagine how bad this could be if it got onto some kind of government server. All of a sudden, you get all these different folders being locked. I know that if you're inside of any kind of corporate environment, if this gets onto your network, it can go through, and as long as it's got the right user account, someone that has a high enough, like an admin, for instance, if it gets into an admin's account, they have access to every single file all the way down on the network drive, which means that basically they have the entire access to the full database of everything that's inside of the company. And they could start locking files that are extremely important. I'm not sure what kind of algorithm they use to search out and encrypt, but let's just put it this way. Like, if you had a file or a folder or something called like checking or accounts or debits or credits, things like this, accounting, more than likely they have a way that they can be able to find these things. And if they lock those up, you lose, all of your accounting data. You could lose all of your files, all of your case data that you might have if you're running anything, any of your repair jobs, if you run a repair place, just tons and tons of stuff you could lose. And it's just not worth it. So that being said, you might be wondering, well, like, how do I avoid ransomware? Something I used to say when I used to work at a place that sold like softwares and upgrades to computers was the only way that you will for sure never get ransomware or a virus is to buy a computer brand new, never turn it on. See, now that sounds a little bit extreme, but the truth is that if you never use your computer, then you're never going to be able to get these things on them. Why is that? Because most of this stuff happens because it's user error. If you're one of those people that goes to a website and you see a pop-up and you click OK on it, then you're like the prime suspect for somebody that's going to get ransomware on a system or on a network. If you're that person, then you definitely need to have some kind of protection. All right. Now, I'm not saying that like any type of protection is better than another. I've seen a lot of different like free virus and malware scanners that can stop this kind of thing, and I've seen other ones that are paid that can't. I've seen it both ways, really. There's a lot of different options out there to protect yourself. The bottom line is that if you're somebody that's susceptible to these kind of things, if you're one of those people that does just click OK on every box that you see just to close it out, or just hit the X on it because you think that it's going to go just fine, or however it might be, if you see something pop up and you're that person that takes the initiative to click, you need to have something protecting your computer, because otherwise you could definitely fall victim to ransomware. I've seen it before. My parents have had it happen to them. They are definitely the type of people that would just click through shit. It's completely a hassle, completely not worth it. And once you lose your stuff, you're just going to be mad at yourself. I mean, it's just not a hassle anyone wants to deal with. So if you are worried about ransomware, or you are worried about malware, things like this, and you just have absolutely no idea what you should do, maybe contact a friend who has a little bit more computer know-how than you, and they can give you a couple of suggestions on either some paid software or some free software that you can get to try and protect yourself a little bit better from things like this, so you don't accidentally have this kind of problem. One of the easiest ways that you can try and avoid this kind of stuff is just like use Chrome. Google Chrome has some built-in protection to be able to tell you if a site's trying to phish or if it seems suspicious, and that's pretty much one of the best ways. It's just super easy. It's not very difficult to install Chrome. It doesn't really offer you actual protection, but it does kind of give you warnings, which a lot of people kind of need. And then if you are the kind of person that just needs that blinking red light at you all the time, showing you, hey, this is bad, you need to stop, then you definitely just need to have some really good software on there to try and protect you. It's definitely worth it, especially if you're working with anything that you cannot lose. And so if that's the case, then like I said, try and get with someone, see if you can get some software on there. If you don't know anyone that knows anything about computers, you can feel free to comment down below. I'll give you some of my suggestions. Honestly, Google's going to be your really good friend here. Just Google it. You don't need to spend like hundreds of dollars to protect yourself for this kind of stuff. You could get away with spending, maybe a $20 or $50 a year subscription and have pretty decent protection. The bottom line is that, if you're not paying attention, even with protective software, you can still get hit by this kind of stuff. It's really just kind of like what you allow on your system. Most of this stuff kind of goes after users that don't really know what they're doing, older users or younger users that are just going to hit okay to try and get through it. The kind of people that won't read terms and conditions, just allow everything. These are the type of people that are really susceptible to this, and these are the kind of people that really have to look out for it. This is something that is pretty easily preventable just by paying a little bit of attention. Like I said, there's different measures that you can take to make sure that you are better protected. I'd recommend looking into it a little bit if you are a little bit worried about it. But again, if you have no idea, then just try and contact someone. Or like I said, you can comment or direct message me and I'll do what I can to help. I know this is kind of like a little bit of a boring topic, but it's something that's been in the news recently. I felt like I'd cover it a little bit, having some experience with this kind of a problem. So if you have any suggestions for future episodes, or you'd like to know more about some of my previous episodes, please do comment below and let me know. Thanks again for watching. Again, that was 10 minutes perfectly wasted.